So ladies, I have another devotion for you here, and this is the one that I was going to do, but I got sidetracked and I produced the two paradigms. This one is titled Itching Ears, and it's taken from 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3, and this is Paul talking to Timothy, giving him advice. And here's what he said: "For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine," that is, things that are taught in the scriptures, "but according to their own desires," that is, their own sinful desires, "because they have itching ears, they will heap up for themselves teachers." And that simply means that they will raise up people who will tell them what they want to hear. And obviously you have the liberal churches in this country, which I would consider probably apostate churches that support the LGBT lifestyle, even though the Bible is flatly against that, churches that support abortion. Those are, I think, the obvious culprits of itching ears. But what I'd like to address today is the more subtle manifestation of the itching ears syndrome that's found primarily in conservative churches, supposedly Bible-believing, pro-life, anti-LGBT churches. And the itching ears syndrome here manifests itself, and I'm not going to get into all the arguments from Scripture for that. You can find that in other devotions that I've done earlier on a Father's devotions. But it manifests itself primarily in the health and wealth movement, in the name it, claim it movement, in the perfectionist movement, and I think also, though this is not as well known, but it's still alive and kicking, unfortunately, in the Reconstructionist movement. And that was championed by such people like Rush Dooney 30, 40 years ago. And these particular movements really, without getting into them, you can research them later, all have one thing in common. And that is that they do not interpret Scripture with Scripture. In other words, you have certain very strong-willed people who have taken Scriptures out of context so that it can coincide more or less with their personality. And so the practical application is, in order to safeguard, I guess, more or less against the itching ears syndrome, give yourself over to the maxim that was established more or less by Martin Luther, which is Scripture interprets Scripture. Don't pick and choose scriptures that suit your own personality or that of your church. Understand it within the context of the whole, and then you'll be able to get more and more, Christ willing, the correct biblical picture of what God intends. God bless you both.